Hello, everyone. Leani Lopez here with another episode of I Got Nothing, a podcast for exhausted writers. I am joined by a fellow exhausted writer. Please introduce yourself.
Hi there. This is author Rebecca Wells Phillips, also known as Rachel Blue and Boo Black. I have 4 published works and another one that's completed and just waiting on copyright. I work 12-hour shifts as an inspector packer at a healthcare manufacturing plant, so I write in my free time.
And are very tired.
Yes, I am.
I feel like exhaustion is just part of being a writer. Like, if you're not, like, in your bones exhausted, you're not doing it right.
No, exactly. And I question myself every day, why? Why am I doing this? Why?
Yeah, that is a pretty big question. And I think the answer is because we have to or we'll go crazy.
Amen. Yes.
And you've been writing for quite a while, haven't you?
Yes. Since high school, I started poetry in high school, fell in love with Shakespeare. And so, yeah, I've been writing since 1987.
And you published your first book in November 2023. So that's a long writing career.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't write my first book until 2013, and I sat on it for 10 years.
Yeah, that tracks.
Is that normal? Is that really
I
normal?
mean, the average number of years for me to get a project done is 7 to 10 years. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep. My audio drama that I released last year, I sat on that for 10 years before I did anything with it. So, you're not alone.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel better.
And what genres are you drawn to? I know you write a couple of different ones.
Yeah, I'm multi-genre. I don't believe in limiting myself, and a lot of my ideas come through dreams. So the books that I've published, Hating Self and Loving Self by Boo Black, those are memoirs of me growing up in an all-white town in Tennessee and dealing with depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, all that. Then Butterfly Blossoms by Rachel Blue, that's my adult LGBTQ fiction. And then my latest and greatest baby is Hurricane Helene, Resiliency After the Storm, Part 1. And that includes stories and photographs and interviews with victims from Hurricane Helene that hit us November 27th of 2024.
Wow. I've never been through a hurricane, but I can only imagine how intense that can be.
Yes, it was not expected because we live in the mountains of, Western North Carolina, and we thought we would just get rain, but we had rain 2 or 3 days prior to it coming through. So when it actually got to us, it was a tropical storm, but we all refer to it as Hurricane Helene because it was horrendous.
What is the difference between writing fiction and nonfiction from your point of view? Because you do both of them.
Yeah. I feel free with fiction to let my mind go wherever it wants to go. So it's limitless. I don't put any roadblocks in my way. And if it sounds crazy, I don't care. I'm going to write it. But with fiction, with nonfiction, it's truth. Everything is truth and lived experiences. And I have a broadcast journalism degree from Carson Newman College, which is now Carson Newman University. And I make sure that everything is factual and accurate. And so it's almost like a journalist reporting type story whenever I do the nonfiction.
Yeah, I've spoken to another nonfiction writer, and she had similar notes. Is one has to be so well, they all have to be well thought out, but the level of detail in nonfiction essentially surpasses fiction because it's accurate, true things that you're reporting on. And I imagine that's also twice as emotional for you, especially for the last book you were just talking about.
Yes, it was traumatic. I went 2 or 3 days without knowing whether my girlfriend was dead or alive. We had no water, no communication, no internet, no electricity. And so I was in my own state of trauma. However, it was about I think 7 days later or 5 days later that I decided I needed to record all this stuff. And so it brought me out of my trauma and let me focus on everyone else's. And so I was able to remove myself kind of like from everything that was going on for about 8 months. And I didn't really deal with my trauma until I published Hurricane Helene, August 4th of 2025. And that's when I started going through a lot of, I think, emotional turmoil and things, depression.
Yeah.
And so I don't read the book anymore. Like I
That's
did all
fair.
the editing and everything.
That's totally
I don't look,
valid.
yeah, I don't look at the pictures or anything because it kind of brings it all back in. But it's a very well written book, if I may say so myself. And I wanted it to be historical and something that perhaps could be used in high schools or colleges with their curriculum about climate change, homelessness, natural disasters, just all types of things.
Yeah, and as someone who reads different genres, I always kind of give someone the stink eye when they turn their nose up at nonfiction because it's just as important in storytelling as
Yes,
fiction. Because
yes.
think of the small blip we humans are in the timeline of this
Hmm.
earth and how much knowledge prior to now has been lost because it wasn't written down or it didn't survive. And
Hmm.
using writing to help focus your trauma or even help set it aside for you to have time to process is
Hmm.
is an important tool, and it is something people have been doing since writing was invented.
That's right.
And I just think there's so much we can learn from nonfiction and use it to help with fiction as well. I think
Hmm.
both are important to the writing journey. And I mean, I've only dipped a toe in writing nonfiction because some of the things I want to write about are still very raw. So I
Mm.
can't even imagine going through what you went through and writing it down at the same time. So, like, I mean, the strength to do that is commendable. That is wild.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And my mental health is still, I think, dealing with it. And people are like, well, why don't you just let that go? Just put it in the past. And it's like, um, have you ever had a bomb drop in your, I mean, it was like that. It was like
Yeah.
as though a bomb dropped in your backyard and you had nothing. That is what we went through. And when it rains, we have that reactive trauma again because we
Yeah.
remember the trees falling down, the mudslides, the cars going down the road, all this stuff. And it comes back to us every time there's a storm. So I think I'm going to go to my grave with these pictures in my head of what I went through.
Yeah. Trauma, people don't realize that trauma rewires your brain. It just
Mhm.
does. A couple years ago, probably like a year and a half to 2 years ago, we went through something traumatic. My husband and I, with our
Mhm.
autistic son. He is thankfully okay.
Oh,
But
okay.
for a good 24 hours, I'll just give a short version. We were trying a special needs camp for the first time, who
Mhm.
was reputable and suggested to us. And the prep was fine. My child was fine. And then during the day, something happened to become, for him to become unregulated.
Oh.
And because of that, he became aggressive. And this camp, which is supposed to be trained for this, made us come pick
Mhm.
him up the next day.
Oh,
And
no.
come to find out, the evening before, instead of giving him his evening meds, the nurse gave him his morning meds,
Oh,
which means
no.
one of his mood stabilizers, which is a very high dose, was not taken.
Mm.
And he came home with very clearly a migraine. He has limited verbal skills, but you recognize a migraine when you see it. And
Mhm.
he was crying and saying he was sorry because he thought he did something wrong.
Aw.
And I have never felt my heart break and that mama bear mode come out
Mm.
so fast. And even though, we are almost 2 years past it, there are some nights I still sit up and have to be like, he's in his room. He's
Mhm.
in his room. He's home with us. He's happy. He's safe. And I have
Mhm.
to repeat that.
Yeah.
And that was a day. You went through weeks. Like,
Yeah, we didn't have water for in Asheville. We didn't have drinkable, potable water for 29 days.
yeah, so trauma rewires your brain. There's no
Hmm.
just, oh, you need to get over that. It's like, if it were that easy, we wouldn't have therapists.
I know, right? And I'm ashamed to admit that I always have used therapists in the past, but with Hurricane Helene, I did not. And I know that I probably should have.
Well, writing was your therapy, so you did something.
Yes, yes, you're right.
I always ask my guests this question, but we've already touched upon it. You've been writing since high school. Did you know since then that you wanted to make it into your career eventually, or that you wanted to release a book eventually, or was it something that you just did for fun that kind of turned into something more?
When I was in high school, it was difficult because I was one of 8 Black students in a school of 1,200. And so I wanted to be an I wanted to go to college. Like I knew I wanted to go to college, and I loved reading. My sister had taught me about reading and all that stuff. So I had to beg my mom to talk to the school to get me out of general English and into AP English. And they felt like I was going to do horrible because I was only like a C student in general English. And so she said, well, she really wants to do it. So they put me in my sophomore year, and I excelled. I was an A B student in AP English, and I fell in love with Shakespeare. Everybody's like, how can you even understand it? And I'm like, I don't know. I
I
just
just
love it.
do.
I just do. And so then I started writing poetry. But after that, I think I tried a couple of writing contests. I actually won trips to different states like Searcy, Arkansas, and Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, because I won these writing contests. But after school, after high school, I didn't think anything else about it. Went off to college at Carson Newman. My parents wanted me to be an accountant. I was in the business program for a semester and then changed my major and changed it to communication arts with a broadcast journalism emphasis, and also double major of English literature. And so my parents weren't thrilled, but they were like, "Okay, what you going to do with that?" And well, because my parents were in politics, so I was like, "I'll be a broadcast journalist. I'll be an anchor on the news." Oh, okay. And what else? And I'm like, and I could teach English. Oh, okay. So that calmed them down. So I went to an internship one summer at WCYB TV5 in Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia, and I helped them. And I decided there ain't no way I could be a news anchor because because I was like, there's no way I could be like, hey, Mrs. Smith, you just saw your son die in a horrible car accident. How are you feeling right now? I mean, like, I couldn't do that without breaking down myself. And I'm like,
I
that is just
know.
cold. And they were like, you have to separate yourself and you have to get the story. All that matters is getting the story. And I was like, nah, what matters is people and what they're going through. So I was like, okay, I will just get my degrees and then I'll figure it all out. But no, I never thought I would ever write a book. I had no intentions of being an author at all.
That's wild. And I love that discussion with your parents because I'm Puerto Rican and I was first generation to go to college. So I was
Hmm.
like, I want to be an English major. I want to be a creative writing major. And they were like, what does that mean? Like and my mom understood it because her side of the family is very creative, and like
Hmm.
literally everyone either writes, draws, does music, sings, or some combination. And my dad understood it because he's an architect and he is a musician. My stepdad was
Ooh.
the one who was like, what? But it's such a like cultural thing, I feel like.
Mhm. Right.
It's just like, what is you have please explain to me what you are going to do with this.
Exactly.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who had to go through that talk. And I also was like, maybe I'll teach. And then, like, halfway through my first semester, I was like, hell no.
Mm-mm.
I
Nope, I
do
had
not
no
have
intention.
that patience. Absolutely not.
No.
So, going from that to writing your first book, what did that feel like when you finished? That must have felt insane.
It was an emotional release because of all the pain that I dealt with growing up in, the small town in Tennessee. But the main thing is when I got married and I had a baby, I was like, I really want my child to understand what I went through growing up so that she'll understand why I'm crazy. So the whole plan was I'm going to write it all down. I'm going to write the book, and it has lessons in it, things I learned. And because it was called Hating Self by Boo Black, and I really hated the skin I was in. And so my plan was just to have it for family, to have it for them to read, to understand me, whatever. And I didn't think about publishing it for 10 years. Mainly because my parents still lived in that town. I didn't want to cause any problems for
Yeah.
them. And they were in politics and stuff, and everybody knew my family. And so when my mom died in 2021, I think, I felt like I could publish it at that point, even though my dad's still there. I just knew that my mom would have been really upset that I was kind of airing my dirty laundry. But I never did say the name of the town in the book.
Wow. Yeah. I, to a lesser degree, definitely understand like not wanting parents to read it as someone who writes spicy romance. My
Yeah.
first book was
Oh, yeah.
not like that at all. And I was very
Hmm.
happy to share that. It was more young adult skewing.
Uh-huh.
And it was the first book in what would be a trilogy, which did not work out. But when I launched my indie author career, like officially, I
Hmm.
had to like steel myself to do that. And I had to just be like, all right, this is it. And then I also had to be like, you're like 30. Like
Hmm.
you can
Hmm.
you can do this.
That's right.
And it was fantastic. My family's all just so amazingly supportive, which is
Hmm.
very helpful. My dad has not read them because they are, quote, girl books.
Oh,
And that's fine. I'm happy with that. He does not have
that's
to.
right.
But he has them because my sister is also an author, so he has
Mm.
each of our books like on displayed on his shelf. Like it's very cute.
That's great. Yeah, Butterfly Blossom is by Rachel Blue. I originally wanted it to be a young adult book, and unfortunately, it was raw. Like I used some real things that happened as a teenager. So my girlfriend was like, "Oh no, this is too graphic for that age group." So I had to make it 18 and up. But the follow up, which is ready to go, just waiting on copyright, called Dragonfly Passion by Rachel Blue, it is not that graphic. So I definitely think that a younger group, like 14 and up, could actually read it and they would be just fine.
I love that. I love going with the genre that best fits the story rather
Hmm.
than having the story like fit into the genre or trying to make a
Yeah.
story fit into that genre. I'm
Yes.
very similar. I'm not devoted to just one genre.
Hmm.
Mostly because I also do ghostwriting, which is one genre. So for my own
Mm.
writing, I have to do something completely different each time.
That's awesome.
But it's also because the story usually calls for something different, and
Hmm.
just the need to explore other genres and other types of writing. Like I write books, but I also wrote an audio drama, so that's a whole different
Ooh.
medium.
Hmm.
And that is fantasy based, and there's no spice in that, much to my
Hmm.
dad's delight. But like the book I'm working on is more of my spicy fiction, which I haven't been able to do in a couple years.
Hmm.
So I love the idea of focusing on the story itself and adjusting the parameters of the book rather than taking away from the story.
Yeah, I'm like one of those stream of consciousness writers in that first off, I write only when I want to write. But I work 12-hour shifts. But then I also don't limit myself, and a lot of things come through dreams. So when I sit down to write, I don't know what's going to come out.
As someone with crazy vivid dreams, I feel you. There are so many ideas and scenes that I just have in my notes app based off a dream that I had. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't know where this is going to fit or if it's going to go anywhere, but
Hmm.
I'm writing it down just in case.
Yeah, I use my phone. I'll like roll over in bed and I'll like type a text to myself or an email to myself with the ideas from the dream. And then I wake up the next morning or whenever I can and I start with that. Like that's what I was given last night. So this is where I'll start.
That's such a cool writing exercise as well. Not
Hmm.
knowing where it goes or where it came from, just starting with that one point and then just
Yeah.
kind of mushrooming outward from that.
Yeah, because my whole life I've been a planner. I mean, I was a Girl Scout, planned for everything, and so writing allows me to not
Yeah.
plan. I just let it take me wherever it wants to take me.
Like, as someone who has started to have to plan things because I'm going into series,
Ah,
like, instead of just a standalone, there are
mhm,
still certain stories or ideas that I have that I am just pantsing through because I have
mhm.
to plan everything else. So if I find a story that doesn't have any kind of plan, I'm like, oh, cool, let's see where this goes. And I also love the idea of writing when you want to write, especially for you. You work 12-hour days.
Mhm.
A regular writing schedule would be exhausting, I would
Yes,
imagine. I mean, I'm
yes.
exhausted as a full time writer, so
Mhm.
obviously you would be as well.
Yeah, I used to try to write a little bit every day when I had a regular 8 to 5 Monday through Friday job, but I started this job a couple years ago, and I divorced my husband of 32 years, and I needed a steady income and all that, and so I can't. I mean, I literally can't because when I get home, I have to drive 45 minutes home, and then I can barely walk in the house from standing up all day. And then I just can't put that pressure on me. I think if I did, my writing would be very poor, and I think people would know. They would know I'm not enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely valid. I've said it before on this podcast. It's more about quality over quantity. Like
Hmm.
when I push myself to write on a day that I'm just too exhausted, it
Hmm.
takes me like 3 times as long to get like 500 words
Yeah.
versus if I just take that day off and then write a day or two later, I can bust out 2,000 words in like 45 minutes.
That's
Like,
great.
so I'd rather have that burst of energy 2 days later than literally like hurt myself trying to get something on the page,
That's right.
which I have to keep reminding myself.
Well, because everybody, these groups that you're in, the author groups and stuff, people are like, "Well, how many words did you write today?" And I'm just like, I'm so sick of that question. First off, the number of words is irrelevant,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But to put that pressure on people is just ignorant, and it's just uncalled for because we don't have a deadline unless you have a traditional publisher that's telling you we need this many pages or this many words by this certain date. If you're an indie author, you do it on your own dang time.
exactly. I mean, one of the reasons I've been working with my ghostwriting client for so long, other than that she's just amazing,
Hmm.
is that our deadlines are pretty loose.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm giving her updates and sending her the manuscript like
Hmm.
regularly, we're fine. And
Yeah.
if it is taking a little longer, we will discuss it and we will adjust to a different timeline if need be. But it's been many years since we've had to do that.
Hmm.
And I think the main difference is she is a writer herself and also, with a job and a family to take care of. So anytime I'm like, hey, like just last week, my son was on spring break and
Hmm.
I was still planning to work because he's a little older now and doesn't need my attention as much. But I also did not know what the week was going to entail. So I was like, hey, just so you know, you may not hear from me next week.
Right.
And she was just like, okay, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks anyways. Bye. I was like,
Oh,
cool. Like,
wow.
and it just took all the pressure off
Hmm.
that job that I have to do amongst all my own personal writing. It was just
Yeah.
like one less thing off my plate that I don't need to worry about a deadline while I'm trying to edit my own book and do these
Hmm.
interviews and like
That's right.
prep all this content.
Yeah, I had talked to another author, and she had convinced me to do a podcast with her. And I was all gung ho about it, even though I was like, okay, I can only devote maybe right now, I can tell you one day a month. because I have
Yeah.
my schedule for work a whole year out. So I will devote one day a month to a podcast. Well, then she's like, oh, yes, okay. And then she started sending out messages to people and on social media saying that we were going to have this podcast and it was going to be at least 2 days a month. And she just took everything that I had already told her no. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's it. I don't need your stress. You're stressing me out.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
trying to finish, my book and stuff. And I think I'm impressed that you're actually able to even find time to do a podcast.
Well, speaking of, dreams and things just coming to you, I've mentioned this in other episodes, but I thought I was done with this podcast
Hmm.
because I had originally covered all the topics I wanted to. It hadn't been interview based when I first started.
Mm.
And I had literally just told my friend, I think I'm done. I've covered everything. And then like a week later, this little voice in my head was like, you're not done.
Ah,
You're not. And I was like, crap.
yeah,
Like
that's great.
I've listened to my intuition enough that I know when I need to follow directions.
Same
And
here. Hmm.
and it's been like a whirlwind, and it's been a way to develop content and keep myself discussing writing and learning new things with other authors while
Hmm.
also doing the solitary part of writing, which is the work itself. It's very solitary,
Yes, it is.
especially when, everyone's gone for the day and it's just me with my cat for like 6 hours working.
Yeah, when I'm writing, I'm here with three dogs and my girlfriend. So it's not really solitary that way, other than I lock myself in the bedroom.
I know I've had to do some work in the evenings because, again, my son's older now. He just turned 13.
Hmm.
So laptop and computer are his best friend,
Right.
which is great after having to like keep my eyes on him for so long. He's
Hmm.
very much matured. But also, I just like just chilling in the evenings with my husband. I don't get to
Hmm.
see him all day, so I'm peppering him with discussions and questions,
Oh,
like,
yes.
like, and then I have to be like, okay, sorry, I'm bothering you. And he's like,
I
no,
know,
it's
right?
fine.
Aw.
But yeah, I've had to do some work in the evenings now, and it just feels weird. It just
Hmm.
feels really, really
Hmm.
weird.
Well, I think that we listen to those voices or intuition, or, I'm a Christian, so I believe a lot of things come through God or my spiritual guides or whatever you want to call it. And I learned a long time ago that I have to listen. Just have to listen.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of where my writing comes from. Literally just an idea that just gets like downloaded into my brain.
Hmm.
And then I'm just like, where did this come from? Like
Yeah.
my first audio drama is called To Court Death.
Hmm.
And it originally had been like a book, and then I turned it into a screenplay, and then it became my first audio drama.
Wow.
But the idea came when I was working. I used to work at a hotel, and I was
Hmm.
literally just pulling into the parking lot, and out of nowhere, well, I had just been like, I feel like I need to be writing. Like, I
Hmm.
haven't written in a while, but I don't have a good idea. And then all of a sudden, the only thing that popped into my head was, what if the Grim Reaper fell in love?
Oh.
And then that was it. Then
Mm,
that was it. And like now it's like a 5-part story that people can listen to.
that's awesome.
And it literally just came out of nowhere.
But it was somewhere, right? It was
Yeah,
really
it came.
somewhere.
Yeah, it was so specific. It came from somewhere, just not somewhere conscious on my part.
That's great.
And I just love like the idea of taking your dreams and like running with them and literally making them tangible.
Hmm.
That's so cool. I mean, with my recent project Battle Cry, which is another audio drama,
Hmm.
that was a dream of mine for years. And to listen to the very first scene after
Hmm.
it was edited
Yeah.
and having it sound exactly like it sounded in my head when I was
Wow.
writing it, like I just cried. I just literally sat there weeping.
Did you do the audio recording part of it, or did you hire some?
I did everything. I
Oh,
wrote it,
wow.
I directed it, I edited it, I am
Dang.
in it.
Wow.
Yeah, it took 2 solid years of work, of just
Whoa.
the production and 10 months of writing the script. So almost 3 years.
So what's the
But
difference between a script and a manuscript? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the difference between the two?
yeah, it's a lot more shorthand.
Mm-hmm.
For this in particular, it was because I did not have a narrator for this one because To Court Death was all narration and I didn't want to do that again because it was exhausting to
I bet.
edit.
Yeah.
But it was telling the story through dialogue and sound effects and
Oh.
music.
Oh.
So there was, in some ways, it was easier because I didn't have to add prose. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to like make it, flowery and flow
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
the degree a book does. And it leaves a lot more for listener interpretation and for people to interpret things on their own because it's not
Oh.
spoon-fed as much.
That seems like it'd be very difficult.
It was. And if I had realized how difficult it was, I probably would not have done it.
Okay. All right.
But it was still so rewarding. I recorded it with my friends, so it was
Mm-hmm.
really fun. Everybody who stayed with the cast took it seriously, which I appreciated because it was just on our own time. No one was paying us to do it. But having your friends and the people in your life take your work seriously is its own reward.
Oh, yes.
It just like, because most of them hadn't read my stuff. So it was also that real life or real time feedback
Mm-hmm.
as well as we're like writing the script and like, how does that sound? And I'm like, I just read it myself. So if it doesn't make sense, we can rewrite the line, which we had to
Right.
do many times.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a whole different medium. And it definitely helped me tighten up my dialogue in my book
Mm-hmm.
because it helped me be more concise and tight with my dialogue.
Yes. Yes. That's what I was taught in college with journalism. Keep it short and simple, and be clear and concise. And so that goes into all my genre of books because I don't like a lot of flowery jibber jabber. I don't aim for 70, 80, 90,000 words per book because most people don't even have time to read.
Yeah.
So my number is like 60,000 words. That's like my goal is 60,000 words whenever I sit down to write anything. But everything is concise.
I am really working on that because the book that I'm working on now is the first book I have written since I started ghostwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this whole, like, I think 7 or 8 years at this point of writing knowledge that I did not have when I wrote my other 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you read my last book that I published, which was my novella, which I think I published in 2022 or 2023, around that time. And if you read the book I'm working on now, it's going to be night and day because
wow.
I just have such a different writing style now. And I actually got constructive feedback on tightening sentences and like less is more because when you're writing that first draft, you want people to see what's in your head. So sometimes, at least I know, I tend to over-explain. And I've been learning how to dial that back and not focus so much on the word count. And I am looking at this beast of a book, and I'm like, I got to cut this down. It's gonna be a long read.
I mean, but some people love that. Some people feel like that's your money's worth. But I want to tell a story and I want you to take something from it and move on. And, for me, when I started writing Butterfly Blossoms, I thought maybe I could do, 3 books. But then I was like, you know what? I want every book to stand on its own and be independent. So even though Dragonfly Passion is a follow-up to Butterfly Blossoms, you could pick up Dragonfly and you would know exactly what's going on and you won't have missed anything. And so that's my goal. I don't want you to be committed to, oh my God, I have to buy book 1 before I can buy book 2. I don't want that because people are struggling financially. I just want you to read. That's what I want.
Yeah, and that is completely valid. I mean, even this book, it's a first in a series, but it is going to be written so that you don't necessarily need to read the first book because each book will be focused on a different character.
Oh, yeah.
So there will be some like subplot through lines for those who are reading the series, but I really want to keep it as open as possible.
Yes.
Since this is a writing advice podcast, I like to ask all my guests, what is the best or worst piece of writing advice you've received?
I had to think hard about that because, you get advice from people who aren't writers. But then you also, what I mean? Like if you've never written a book I just don't feel like you can give me advice. I'll
Yeah.
listen to it, but I'm not going to like take it to heart. But I do have a cousin, and he's written multiple books, and he was just very, to me, naysayer negative. So every time I did anything, it was like, that's not how it's done. It was kind of like, that's not the way it's done. Over and over again, just like when you work on a job and people say, we've always done it this way here.
Oh my God, that is the worst.
Exactly. So as an independent writer, I'm like, forget that. I don't care what is traditional, what's expected. I'm going to do the opposite. So that's just me. So that it's just, there were so many different things, but that kept coming up. That's not the way it's done. That's not the way it's done. I'm like, okay, well, this is the way I'm doing it.
Yeah, I've done audio dramas, but I've only listened to a handful because I don't want it to color my interpretation
Yes.
of what it, quote, should be.
Yes.
And as I've had people asking me questions like, oh, do you just like, I guess most people, I use that loosely, will record, edit, and post one episode at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, talking about stress earlier and adding to your stress, that's stressful.
Yes.
That puts a lot of pressure on you, like continual pressure on you to get this thing done. If it's a long-term story, if it's a short-term, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't do it that way. I shot it like a TV show where we did everything at once.
Yes.
And then we went back for reshoots. And then I edited them before I released them so that there was no pause in between episodes.
And you have consistency.
Right? Exactly. And so I'm so hesitant. Also, because I've done podcasts and such, I'm kind of a snob when it comes to audio quality.
Oh, I like that.
And if the audio's just off a certain way, I just can't continue. Mm-hmm. Like if it's enough to distract me from the story, just like if a book isn't edited. Or if you can tell, I know, or if you can tell there was only one or two passes and I just can't finish it. Like I need that like extra polish to get through it.
I agree.
Yeah, and of course, people giving advice when they aren't writers is just so fun. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, and they always think that if you did it right, you would be rich.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
No, I'm learning I will have to say, the cousin that writes a lot of books, I am learning that you need to have multiple books because one book may not touch that many people, but another book, and it's all having multiple books out there, which will increase your income. And so I'm like I said, I've got 4 published. I got a 5th one sitting here waiting on copyright, and I also have a 6th one that I've already started interviewing people for. It's called Lift Our Voice: Abuse Survivors Speak Their Truth, and it's talking about different types of abuse in their lives, and they're able to be anonymous. But that one is just like the Hurricane Helene one, in that you're reliving your trauma when you're interviewing. And so I'm taking it really slow, and it'll be next year probably before I even try to release that one. But I'm trying to get like to that magic number, let's say 13. It'd be great to have 13 books under my wing, so that way one book is at some point bringing in a royalty check.
Yeah, and like we were, talking about earlier, it's also about what you can physically handle. And people who have like, books waiting to be released, and they have like a nice backlog, like it just takes me so long that it's going to be a very long time before I have any kind of backlog.
Yeah, I understand that. And I was doing like one book every 6 months, but then Hurricane Helene took me 8 months. And then Dragonfly Passion, I would say it took me probably 6 months. I think it's easier for me to write the fiction. Like the fiction, I can roll out in like 6 or 7 months, but when it's real and nonfiction, it's 7, 8.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah.
And lastly, what advice would you give new indie authors?
Well, Indie authors are so impressionable. I wanted to give them a list of things to keep in mind. All right.
Amazing.
So trust no one because scammers are out there to get your money. Even when people say they know how to do something, you yourself can probably do it better than them. Number two, be authentic. Write what you want to write. Don't feel pressured to do anything but what you feel you should write. Number three, don't expect fame and fortune. Write to make a difference. If you're lucky, it will happen and you'll become a lucrative hobby. Four, don't be discouraged. Don't listen to the naysayers. And that's it.
That's a great list. That is all good points. And thank you, Rebecca, so much for joining me today. This has been wonderful.
Well, thank you for having me.
Where can people find you online?
I am at www.RebeccaWellsPhillips.com. They can also email me at RebeccaWellsPhillips@gmail.com. I'm on 12 social platforms, and I have all my books on Amazon.
And I will put the link to your website in the description of this episode so people can find you.
All right, thank you.
This is a reminder that I do have a Patreon. Patrons receive episodes up to 2 days earlier than the general public. There are exclusive blogs and podcast episodes that are only found on Patreon. You'll also receive discounts on writing services, behind-the-scenes tidbits for Battle Cry, including access to our blooper reel, access to my Discord server, and shout-outs in future podcast episodes. So head over to patreon.com/Leani M. Lopez or check out the link in the description. Thank you again, Rebecca, and thank you to everyone for listening and joining us today. As always, happy writing.